Hello everyone! Today we are starting on the construction of our Roksi Trio, and the first thing you're going to want to do is take everything with you to the machine. You want your strap pieces, your front and back pieces, and of both layers. You want your front and back pieces of both layers. One of my layers is kind of see-through, so I did cut a lining, so you'll see how that gets attached. So I'm taking the front and back of that to the machine as well. If you are sewing multiple tiers of your Roksi, for instance the crop and the tank or the crop and the dress, you will take all of your pieces to the machine with you and sew each step as you go. I'm only going to show you the crop because that fits in the frame best, so that is the pieces that you will see from this point on. Now the first step is to stitch your straps. You want to stitch them down each side 1/4 inch seam allowance on your straps if you are doing the two-sided strap. If you are doing the single fold strap, you'll only have one of those, and that will be folded in like so in half and stitched with 1/4 inch seam as well. There are two options of strap in case you want to make sure that your straps match both sides of your Roksi. So I'm doing the two-sided one here so that you can see how that matches. If you are not doing a reversible Roksi, or if you don't care if one of your sides has a contrast strap, you can just do the fold over strap. It's a little bit easier to turn that way, but for this example, I am doing the two-sided strap. And after you stitch 1/4 inch on each side, you are going to trim those seam allowances. I usually do this while I'm sitting at my machine, so that's why I'm showing it to you here, all in line with this step. If you like to do this not at your machine, you might want to just set it aside for later once we're moving away from our machine. So you're going to want to trim down to a 1/8 inch seam allowance. You don't want to get too close to that stitch line because you want to make sure that those stitches stay in place, but you do want to eliminate bulk. That will make this a lot easier to turn. This is of course right sides together, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that before. You are sewing your straps right sides together down the long side of the strap. And this is where our handy loop turner comes in handy. I like to use a loop turner. Why is that word so hard to say? I like to use a loop turner if you have another preferred method of turning your straps. Some folks use a very creative straw method that I've seen. Whichever method you prefer, as long as it gets the job done. And I just speeded this up a bit so you don't have to watch me sit here and struggle with my loop turner. It does take a while to get it going. And then once you do get it turned, you just want to make sure the ends are nice and turned out and flat, as flat as you can get. A pin helps with this. And you can see that I will now have two sides of a strap, one to match one side of my Roksi and one to match the other. The next thing you're going to do while you're at your machine is stitch your side seams. And this is going to be the front and back of the matching side. So you're going to stitch all of the side seams for all of the layers you're doing. Just make sure that they correspond with the same fabric. You don't want to sew a contrast side seam to a contrast side seam. And then you're going to head to your machine and press open all those side seams. Here you can see on the piece with the lining, I stitched that as if it was one fabric. So the lining side seam is caught in with the self side seam here. And that is going to get pressed open. The straps get pressed flat. Our next step is going to be to join the necklines, but before we do that, it's a good idea to do some markings to kind of guide yourself to get that center point really perfect. So from the edge, you are going to just draw in that 1/2 inch seam allowance on whichever layer you're going to be looking at when you sew. So that way you can really see where that pivot point is going to be to make a nice clean V shape. And you are going to find the matching side. So you need the front, and you're going to put your contrast layer inside your other self layer, right sides together. And notice my lining, of course, stays on the outside. It's now being treated as the wrong side of the fabric. And we are going to sew that V-neck at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, being sure to pivot at the center point, and you are stopping when you get to the top where the strap goes. And you can do all of this while sitting at your machine. Next, you are stitching the underarms, making sure to leave that opening where the strap goes. You are just stitching the underarm seam, being sure to match up the side seams, which should be pretty easy since they're all nice and pressed flat. If it helps you, you can use a pen, especially when we're working with these super drapey fabrics. You want to make sure that nothing is moving around too much. Alright, we have sewed both underarm seams, right sides together. And now, of course, we want to clip. Since this is a pretty good curve, you want to just do little slices into your seam allowance too, but not through the stitching. Be very careful not to go through the stitching. This will help us get a nice clean edge once we turn everything right side out and press it. And then on your front V-neck, you're just going to cut straight in to that V point. Again, be careful not to go through that V point. And that's going to give us a really nice point at center front. Now it's time to insert our straps. So you are going to put them in between your two layers, and you want to make sure, if you did the two-sided strap, make sure the corresponding side is facing the right side of your layers. For instance, here I have my white side of my strap facing the white side of my crop. And you are just going to, this is the back, the cross back seam, and you're going to stick these in, laying flat, and you are going to tuck these up against that underarm seam as tight as it can go. Again, use pins if necessary. They will be very helpful here. And you are going to stitch straight across that back seam, making sure to catch your straps. Oh, and your raw edge of your straps is going to match up with the raw edge of the pattern piece. You can see where I've caught my straps, and we've created a corner here, so you want to clip that corner. If you want to clip around your strap, you can. I just snipped that right off. It's gonna be okay. So now we want to connect these straps to the front. This part is a little tricky. You want to make sure you are not twisting your straps around. So keep them flat, and this will be easier not to screw up probably if you're doing contrast sides, but the correct side needs to be facing my white, still needs to be facing my white, my blue still needs to be facing my blue. If you're having trouble getting your strap up through this hole, I like to use my little serger tweezers here to kind of pull that through so that the raw edge comes out, and I'm going to pull that back so it's matching the raw edge of the pattern piece. And now you're just going to stitch straight across this little part right here, catching that strap. Again, you want to double check that nothing's twisted. Your strap should be nice and flat and connecting to the other side. Alrighty, I have stitched across both of those front pieces. And again, we've created some corners here, so I'm just going to clip. I'm going to clip that whole top piece shorter, and then I'm just going to clip diagonally across these corners, being careful not to snip through my stitch line. Again, just speeding things up here a little bit. And now it's time for the fun part. So reach in between those two layers, grab a hold of those straps, and pull everything right side out. This is always fun to see your final result. Well, not final, but now you're going to go to the machine and press. You want to press all of your curves, press your across the back line there, press where your straps meet, press that front V. And as best you can, you want a nice crisp edge. You want to make sure you don't see any blue on the white side or white on the blue side, whichever colors you're using. And then we are going to take a little break and hang our Roxy. As you can see, all those biasy ends are already wanting to be uneven. So letting this hang for a few hours, or even better overnight, will help us to make sure we have a nice even hem. So I will see y'all tomorrow, and happy sewing!